Strong foundation for the day, we will now start diving into the first main topic, innovation in livestock management. The livestock sector is under pressure from several directions at once. It's economics and efficiency, climate, labor, animal welfare, and rising public expectations. At the same time, it is an area where technology can make a real difference on farm level. And to open this session, I'm pleased to welcome Professor Dr. Peter Kunzmann from the University of Veterinary Medicine in Hanover. As a leading expert of animal ethics, he explores how society, sustainability, and agriculture are related and what innovations have to do with it. Welcome, Professor Kunzmann.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much indeed for the kind introduction, and thank you very much for the kind invitation. Yes, the future of livestock farming from the point of view of an ethicist. Does it work? The future of livestock farming, I'm not an expert on it, and I don't want to talk about the future and say the one and only. I want to open possible futures and what molds possible futures as well. Taking it from my own area of expertise, from the position of ethicists, it will be a quick story. It'll be finished in seconds. Stop it. I think I'm one of the rare ethicists who really dares to go on and thinking about a future of animal of keeping animals for food production anyway, but that's not about the story. 10 years or 15 years ago, a Berlin author wrote a book, Wurst und Wahn, which you could translate into meat and madness. And he's imagining a world without meat, or at least turning the other way around, like 10 years ago, those who lived on a vegan diet were really exotic, and he imagines 10 years later, those still eating meat are the exotic bits in societies. And he tells the story that in supermarkets, there are large curtains hiding the shelves where people still sell meat and sausage. And one of the purveyors says, the sight of dead animals should no longer be expected of miners and vegetarians. No one dares to buy such things anymore anyway. We practically only sell meat as animal feed. It's a shame, really. Would you imagine such a future for Western societies, for Germany, for at least Western European countries? I don't know. I mean, forecasts are very difficult if they relate to the future. And as the great football artist Paul Gascoigne said, I never make predictions and I never will. So I'm not imagining what is going to happen, but I've dragged the opportunity to tell something about what might happen and what will be molding possibly the future of keeping animals for food production. Well, I have in mind some possible scenarios. And scenarios are just possibilities. Could there be an end of consumption of animal products in, say, 10, 15 years? I personally don't believe it, but there are some parts in society who are pretty sure this is exactly what is going to happen. Could it be a way that Western societies take, in many occasions, when it comes to critically production systems, let it produce elsewhere and then we buy it? Let it be from the German perspective in Spain or then in Brazil, or we don't touch the production, but we use the products. Possible future. What I think is the most probable, but I wouldn't bet on it, is we have what we can see now already happening is a kind of social segmentation or segregation. There are already millions who can't imagine biting in a schnitzel once again. You're laughing. It is true. I mean, I had the pleasure to give a similar talk to a panel in Erfurt in Thuringia. And the colleague introducing me said his daughter's studying in Berlin, and when she comes back to Erfurt, she eats meat and sausage quite normally, as he would call it, but she is not allowed to even take it back to her living community in Berlin. Not even they don't eat it, they don't allow her to bring it into the common flat. That's what I think is social segregation. And one thing you should keep in mind when talking about these issues, there is a certain asymmetry in the discussion. Those who really oppose using animals for food production can't easily tolerate the other way around. If you eat meat or consume milk or whatever, it's no problem to say, well, if others don't, I don't care. But it's not that easy the other way around. But just keep it in mind. Anyway, will there be an end of consumption? And what will decide the future? I mean, that's your story here. It's about markets, prices, productions, consumption, and so on. One thing you should keep in mind as well, I think, is it's not only about consumers, it's about citizens as well. You're producing within a society that is changing its attitude towards animals quite rapidly. And it's not only about consumers. And when I talk to members of the agro business, they always say, yes, the consumer says, the computer thinks. Yes, it's just one part of the story. It's half of the story. But there are also citizens who have in mind some political, social, moral values, and they may interfere with your business without even being your consumers, without being your clients. So this is the citizens, and please keep in mind, I think I'm selling an old story, but it's still an interesting one, a good one. It's what they call the consumer-citizen gap, and if you talk people to people about animals in agriculture, the citizens will say, yes, of course, it's very important. We have to take into our minds animal welfare and sustainability and climate protection. That's what they say, and that's what they mean as citizens, but it is not that what drives their behavior as consumers. And that is what's called the consumer-citizens gap. I said an old story, but I don't find any field where this clash between what people have in mind, honestly have in mind. They really believe it's their moral consideration as citizens, and again, the colleagues at Göttingen who did this picture, and they've done, I don't know how many studies, and they can, once again and again, they show how the gap is enormous between what people say when you ask them about their moral considerations as citizens and how they behave when it comes as buying consumers. So, keeping that gap in mind, I think you should take a moment to reflect on what is a license to operate. And this is the citizen part, this is the social part, not the economic part. If you do something in a society, you have a certain way of producing, of doing commerce or whatever, there is a social eye on it. It's what they call the license to operate. If you harshly clash with the values within a society, you may go on for a while, you may go on forever, but you have to pay a price for it. And so I think it's wise of thinking towards the license to operate when it comes to producing food with animals. And if you have this kind of license, you haven't gained much, but perhaps you won't gain much without it. So, when it comes to animals, there may be big social gaps between Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, or North America. But within our societies, and especially when it comes to the German society, for many historical reasons, when it comes to animals, please think of yourself as just being one of 80 million experts. 10 years ago, I published this paper in the papers of the German Agricultural Society. Please keep in mind, you are just one of 80 million experts. When it comes to animals, even when it comes to farm animals, everyone knows at least as well as you know. You can't, I'm at a veterinary university. I'm talking to future vets, and it's the same story to future vets as well. And say, don't believe that you have a big advantage and say, well, at least I've studied veterinary medicine for years and years and years, and I did my doctorate in it. The people will put your cat on your desk and say, my cat has, I did it, I looked it up via Google, and I tell you what to do now. There are, for whatever reason, there are some fields of expertise that are not really fields of expertise. Religion is one, schools is one, taxation is one, and animals is another one. You can't help but say, well, believe you me, I know that feeding animals properly, keeping them properly, breeding them safely is enormously complicated. But do the experiment on your behalf. Ask someone in your surroundings, say, well, would you think yourself being capable of running, let's say, a dairy farm? And listen how many would say, wow, no, far too complicated. I have no faintest idea. People would say, yes, of course. So keep it in mind when it comes to discussions about animals. People think of animals being their animals, even it's farmers' animals, and they think of themselves as competent and responsible. Right, so what do they want from a future livestock farming? Perhaps can classify it in three perspectives. Definitely, people do not want animals to have a bad life. That's what we all agree on. And this is the baseline, even the legal baseline when it comes to animal protection law. Animal protection law is not made to make animals happy. It's to prevent cruelty on animals. And this baseline morally is usually agreed on. Then many people want animals to be better off. And this is an ongoing discussion during the last 20, 25 years on many levels. Yes, when it comes to animals' lives, we could do better concerning their welfare and the welfare standards. So people would agree, say, yes, perhaps we owe them a better life if we breed them, feed them, kill them, and finally eat them. But what is this better off made of? What does really help animals to have a better life? This is heavily discussed, and there are some of them, and it is a niche in society, I'd say, and it will stay a niche in society, who claim that if we dare using their bodies for our own nutrition, what we owe them is that they have at least a great life during their life. This is a small community. There are small communities in our societies. There are small markets as well who sell products for this variety. But I think it's a minority, and it will be one. When it comes to bad, not bad, as I said, it's the animal law baseline. And if these standards are undercut, and that's what you can see in television, week after week after week, some documentation taken in farms, slaughterhouses, animal transportation. The standards are definitely illegal, but it still raises public concern, and it makes the job even more complicated for those who do the job properly. When it comes to the question, say, should animals have a better life? Should they be better off? There are two things that are controversial in it. Most people say, yes, they should. One is the more academic or the scientific question, what really makes their life better? Not just look at it and say, well, probably it's better for them. We don't know. So there's much research and say what actually makes their life not only felt better, but really better. So to the question, do we owe them a permanent holiday? Someone asked that in the Dutch parliament. I think the question is really tricky. I like this version of it. It was meant polemic and said, well, of course we should keep them better, more animal welfare standards and so on and so on. Do we really want them to have a permanent holiday? And it was a polemic question. The answer would no. But what the systematic problem within it, especially for an ethicist, if we want to know it to make it better, to which level, finally? Just one part of the question. Yes, they should have a better life, but what is this better life made of? The other question, and this is the ongoing question, I know and have been in this kind of business for 25 years, and I know all the discussions. They go on and on and on, and they go in the same version. In about 97, perhaps only 95% of all cases. Yes, citizens says, yes, we want a better life for our animals. And then comes the question, who's going to pay for it? And like the row of dominoes, it always comes to the same clash of the farmers say, well, we would definitely give them a better life if we are paid for it. And then the industry says we can't afford to pay more, and so on and so on. And in the end, the final domino piece to fall is the consumer. If the consumer would spend more money on it, we had a better life for our animals. But who bears the cost? And as I said, I've been in the business for 25 years, and I've seen 123, perhaps 125 of these discussions when it comes to the crush. All people want it better, and when it comes to the question, who bears the cost? It's still going on. So there are other people, I said, who have in mind some kind of simply super animal husbandry, and I think this comes in two versions. One is Old MacDonald's farm, not really actual part of the business story, but part of what the sociologists would call the social imaginary, the good old times where there was a harmony between man and animals, even and especially on the farm. That's in the German social lab calls it the fairy tale animal husbandry. The English literature called it Old MacDonald's farm. As I said, talk to people, you will instantly find it. Or the other one, as I said, is a niche product, animal husbandry deluxe. This exists, but it exists really in a niche. You can have your own pig raised somewhere in the countryside near Berlin. You pay an astronomical price for it, but you can have everything you want, and you'll be sure this swine that died finally for your dinner, it really had a wonderful life. Okay. Anyway, from an ethical perspective, one must say it is possible to reduce the burden on animals, and if it is possible, it is a moral imperative to work on it. And the industry reference to professional standards of animal welfare is also very legitimate, say, if it is really an improvement, show me that it is an improvement. And as I said, the ongoing quarrel is who's going to pay for it. This is as well an economic as a political struggle. In came new moral standards. Climate change has become an issue in the field as well. Know what's funny? People fighting climate change without going vegan. This happened, I think, about 8 or 10 years ago when climate change became really a widespread public issue. And in parts of society, younger, well-educated people draw the one conclusion and say, well, if you just stop keeping farm animals, you instantly solve two problems, the problem of animal welfare and of climate change. It won't be that easy, but it's not my question here. It's a milkmaid's bill, says Willy Windisch, and he's sold the story often and again, say, well, it's not that easy. But it still is something that people have in mind and say, stop keeping animals and the problem will end. I switch it. From an ethical perspective, we are talking about two different stories. If you think of it and say, well, in principle, more animal protection as one problem could be achieved with more financial effort. Many of the restrictions in animal welfare in food production are based on financial restrictions. But we can't buy another climate. It's a different story, not that easy solved economically. From an ethicist perspective, the care for animals is altruistic. It's to say it's for their sake. It's a different motivation. When it comes to climate change, it's about us. We want to save our skins in the first place. And whereas the care for animal welfare in livestock production has always been an issue of a relatively small community in society, climate change has become a widespread issue for all. So these are really different stories, and usually they are combined away and say, well, we have to, as I said in one version, stop livestock farming and you solve both problems. Technically, definitely not the same, and even ethically, it's not the same. But when it comes to your job now, is caring for the biological, ecological version of it, and caring for animal welfare antagonistic? Are these goals both in the same direction? I mean, there are antagonistic versions that say, well, caring about the climate in producing animals may have an ecological impact. For example, growing broilers means that for animal welfare standards, it's better to feed them for a longer period of time. Definitely helpful for the animal, but consuming more resources. So there may be antagonisms, but it's not what I'm after. So there are, and this I think is the field of your future investments, of your future technical innovations, finding solutions that help at the same time stabilize the climate when producing animal for food consumption, and let me put it like this, serve at least a minimum level of animal welfare that is acceptable in a modern Western society. please keep in mind what we have in the social sciences as a whole during the last 10 years, 15 years, is called the animal turn. Believe you me, would be another speech. Believe you me, there is a strong current that changes the relation between humans and animals on a large scale. And I'm sure this won't revert in the years to come. So, keeping in mind for the social license to produce food for humans using animals has its way in a license to operate towards the animals, towards the ecological impact, towards the climate. And this is what I think. The technological inventions should now look for, like livestock precision farming, serving both goals, both needs. Success in breeding animals is a key issue when it comes to produce animals with less ecological impact and more animal welfare, and animal health is an enormous sector. For example, disease control that helps both. So, will farmers be future heroes, solving the two problems at the same time? I'm sorry to say, no, they won't be. But I can say, I doubt it, but they will have to do it for their moral license in modern societies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kunzmann. Yeah. Please stay with me for one more minute. Thank you for opening the topic from the ethics point of view. Yep. Very interesting. Are there some questions in the audience? Do you have something in mind? I think there is a microphone somewhere. I saw a sign. I didn't understand. No. Yeah, then we will hear about innovation, about technical innovation that can enhance the animal health, animal welfare, and also help to tackle the problem with the climate. If we have 80 million experts on animal husbandry, like in football, I had to think about that example too.
Perfect.
Do you think technical innovation can help to bridge the gap between a critical society, critical citizens, as you pointed out, and the farmers? Because innovation have to be explained, and most of the people don't even know today how a real stable look like. So if our farmers want to be the heroes, I would love to hear that from the farmers' point of view, but how can they explain their innovations if they invest in the technologies that we are going to hear and discuss later on? Yeah.
I think it depends, and the society has different phases as well. I mean, there is, when it comes to technology in the agribusiness, there is a large chunk in the population, not a part, but a large part, or many people, they really like thinking about innovation in agriculture. I think there's the opposite, just thinking of old MacDonald's farm, and they abhor every innovation in agriculture. And perhaps this is a really, not only, but a specifically tough topic in Germany, but there is a reluctance to accept innovation in agriculture. But it's only in a part. And on the other hand, as I said, and I'm sorry to say, once again, the idea of this social license is not that you have a winning formula to gain public support, but it's just preventing to lose public support.
Even more.
There will be parts in the society that you won't reach with technical innovation, but there are others who are thrilled by technical innovation, and perhaps in itself, and perhaps they get closer to agriculture via showing them what is going on. But I think it's just a condition under which you can go on keeping animals and say, please be safe of touching the moral strain when it comes to animal welfare in public opinion.
Thank you so much. Here's a question.
Thank you so much. My name is Johannes Grenzebach. I'm a farmer as well, and I'm a start-upper, entrepreneur, maybe. We grow quinoa in Germany and Austria and Switzerland together with farmers. And our customers, they are vegan and looking for gluten-free food. So when I remember the last GANS 25, the main topic was hybrid meat. So especially South Sugar is looking forward to produce Ackerbohne and mix it with meat. That was 1 year ago. When I got now to the supermarket, I cannot see anything like that. So what do you think about? Is it a big potential to mix meat with plant-based food? And how does the customers react in this? So for us, maybe it's a very nice strategy to grow our business as well, if we could mix quinoa with some fat-free meat, maybe.
Let me put it like this. Why don't eat people meat? And if you answer this question, I think this is part of adjusting whether you can mix meat with non-meat, for example. People who abhor the idea of using animals won't eat it purely, and they won't eat it even in 10%. They won't even refrain from eating it in 1%. If it is, I don't know about the potential, but people refrain from eating meat, as I said, due to the ecological impact. Perhaps you could address them, because you can show them what I have on offer is an optimal, perfect mix when it comes to the ecological impact of producing food. So take a closer look, I'd say. Take a closer look why people abhor the idea of eating meat, or they refrain from eating meat. When it comes to, for example, nutritional perspectives, many people don't eat meat, not because they care about animal, nor about the climate, but about their own body. I think for them, it could be a very attractive way of selling the story and say, well, we make the best of both worlds. But then you would address those who, for these reasons, don't eat meat any longer.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Professor Kunzmann.
Yes.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.